We struggle in this country that on the right and on the left, that if you think your cause is big enough that you're exempt from doing math. You're not exempt from math if you're a Democrat, and you're not exempt from math if you're a Republican, and you're not exempt from math if you're a liberal, and you're not exempt from math if you're a conservative. You still have to do math. And anyone who can do math can tell, and anybody that knows the basic business premises of something like a Social Security system, the basic things that are laid out there, or something like the tenets of Obamacare, the processes that are being put in place there, it's fairly easy to surmise with critical thought what's going to occur. And you just have to be intellectually honest enough to do critical thought and look at it, regardless of your political leanings. And you have to pull your head far enough out of your politics to actually have an original thought. And that's very tough for people because they watch Fox News so they learn how to say what they're supposed to say, or they watch CNN to learn how to say what they're supposed to say on the other side. And so if you've got your little liberal socialism think tank, talking points down, or you've got your GOP, Cato think tank principles for the right down, then you've got your talking points, then you hadn't had an original thought in years. And that's really dangerous because A, it means you don't understand the other side of the discussion, but B, you start to think that you can just yell loud enough and math doesn't matter. Math still matters. You still have to do math. So let me help you with this as an example. January the 1st, every health insurance company in America, if they're going to operate, is required to take anyone, regardless of how ill they are, as a customer. And they cannot charge them more than they charge someone who's not ill. And so you're 500 pounds, you have diabetes, you've got cancer, and you've had 3 heart attacks, you're going to pay the exact same premium as a perfectly healthy person. That's the new law. It's one piece of the new law. Now, that's good if you don't have health insurance and enables you to get health insurance. I understand the motivation and the nobility and the moral imperative behind that. I get that. But that doesn't change the math. The math is that those people get sick more often and run up more medical bills than someone who's healthy. Duh. And if they now have to be covered by the same company that you're covered by, and they're required to take them, they no longer have the option to say, I'm going to turn you away. They're required to take them. Then the math kicks in. Because the amount of money that insurance company was paying out to the medical community is going to go way up. They're not going to pay more out to the medical community per person than they ever have before. Now, let me help you with that. What they pay out per person is how your premium is determined, plus profit. It's called an actuarial table. It's a simple law of averages. It's a statistical analysis. It's really not rocket science. You could probably do it in the 8th grade. It's really not. It's not super complicated. It's just a simple, if you're decent with math, you could work your way through it. But it's a simple thing. If a life insurance company has more people dying, then their life insurance premiums per person in that same group of people is going to be higher. Thus, they charge more for people that smoke than they do for people that don't smoke. They charge more for people who parachute than people who don't parachute. And so, but in this case, that's no longer allowed. Everybody's going to be charged the same. Translation, you are going to pay higher premiums to keep the insurance company open, or they're going to go broke, because they now have to cover people they didn't have to cover before, and they're known as sick people. Now, it's a nice moral imperative, but it doesn't change the math. So translation is, your health insurance premiums are going to go way up. They have to. It's not I'm mad about it. It's not a political statement. It's that I know how to do math. And I understand the basic tenets of how an insurance premium is developed. It's not rocket science here. Well, my insurance premiums might not go way up. My employers may go way up. Well, honey, your premiums that cover you went way up. Your employer paying them might affect your raise. Might even affect the stability of your job because they might not be able to pay everybody because they have higher costs of operating their business now. And if that's the case, you might lose your job or you might not get raises. Did you pay for it? Yes, you paid for it. It's called a pass-through. You're going to pay for it. Employers aren't going to pay for this. They're not going to accept less profits. They're going to cut expenses, like not hire as many people or not give as many raises. It's real simple. And so you are going to pay for it. Well, I don't have a job. I live off the government. Okay, you're not going to pay for it. I was wrong. You're not. The rest of us are going to pay for you, like we do on a lot of other things in your life, if that's you. 46% of Americans pay no federal income tax. The rest of us support you on all the things that the federal government does. Half of Americans don't pay anything into this discussion. So that's another part of the discussion. So again, this is not an angry thing. It's a math thing. Now, it makes you angry when you consider the implications of it, but you cannot use that. You can't use your level of anger or your level of passion to offset the fact that math still has to be done here. You're not exempt from math. And just because you think the Social Security system is a good idea does not mean you're right. You still have to do math. In other words, let me help you with this. If I took, we pay into the Social Security system 15% of our income roughly. And if I took 2% of that 15 and put that in a mutual fund, I would have 200 times more money than I'll ever get out of the Social Security system with the other 13%. If I took 10% of the money that I pay into Social Security, I can beat what Social Security produces with the other 90%. That's how bad it sucks, mathematically. In other words, obviously that money is not invested. It is sent to Washington and promptly stolen by them, and then they turn around and pay it back out later. But the money that they pay back out has nothing to do with what you've paid in. You have a negative rate of return. In other words, the interest rate that you are receiving on the money you pay into your Social Security account is a negative interest rate. You don't even get back what you paid in, much less any interest on what you've paid in. Mathematically, this is known as sucks. It's a technical math term. This sucks. It's horrid. It's a nightmare. And the same thing is true anytime you socialize anything. Anytime you force everyone to get a trophy, you force everyone to be on the same playing field, you force income reallocation. Anytime you force that, regardless of how you feel about it or what your moral imperative is, you still have the same net result mathematically. And so the more we look into Obamacare, the more we realize that we're being forced to do this. You don't have an option. You do not get the option of not participating. You're going to pay a fine. Your employer's going to pay a fine. Your employer's going to pay higher fees. You're going to pay higher fees. You are going to get health insurance. Does that feel like communism? Some of you don't like guns. I'm a gun collector. I believe in the Second Amendment. Some of you don't like guns. What if we passed a law that said everyone has to get a gun? It's a freedom and it's a right now. But what if we changed it and made it mandatory? You wouldn't like that, would you? Well, that's why a lot of us don't like this. We don't like our freedoms being taken away. And when you do it with our wallet, it's the same as any other way. It's still our freedoms are being taken away. It's communism. It really is. And it has come to a head. So we've got a mess up there. It's going to be a while before they clean it up. You don't look for this shutdown to end anytime soon. This is the Dave Ramsey Show.